Ahead here, a day we've all been waiting for, the anticipation of the sentencing hearing of John Goodman. At 2 o'clock today, John Goodman will be sentenced up in Judge Colbath's proceeding in his chambers up there in that courtroom there. A day that all stems back to February 12th of 2010, that fatal night on that car crash when Scott Wilson was killed on that night. We, of course, then led up to the March trial, the 3 weeks of powerful testimony, until today, the sentencing hearing. John Goodman faces up to 30 years in prison. The prosecution has asked for 20 years. We'll see what Judge Colbath asks for. We'll see what he hands down later today. It should be a powerful, powerful day in the courtroom. But aside from that, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding that runaway juror, as he has been dubbed here, Dennis DeMartin, the juror who left the jury box back in March and quite frankly opened his mouth and put himself into a controversial situation because of a book that he wrote, and then by an experiment that he allegedly conducted the night before the verdict was handed down. All of that has really muddied the waters. So, as you mentioned, Dennis DeMartin will be back into court here today. He will be questioned just before the sentencing hearing, all set to take place at 2 o'clock today. So a big afternoon. A lot of activity is starting to surround the Palm Beach County Courthouse as we speak. Of course, much more to come in about 2 hours. I want to bring in my colleague Alex Sands. He has been following this trial, pouring through just about every document surrounding it in this case. And Alex, I know today is a huge monumental day as we await the sentencing hearing in just a few hours.
It really is, Jay. As you said, the headline coming into this afternoon really is twofold. You have those allegations of jury misconduct, but also what prosecutors have asked the judge for. As you know, yesterday they've asked him for a 20-year prison sentence for John Goodman. The guidelines, as you know, range anywhere from 11.5 to 30 years in prison for DUI manslaughter for that conviction here in Florida. Yesterday, in a late-day filing, they said John Goodman may be sorry for his actions, sorry for Scott Wilson's death, but he hasn't shown remorse. Therefore, that is why he should be sentenced to 20 years in prison. Of course, before this happens, and some wonder if it will, juror Dennis DeMartin being brought back into the courtroom for more questioning to answer allegations of jury misconduct. Specifically, if comments he made to News Channel 5 and the Palm Beach Post, things he wrote in his book, really are true, they say. In his book, he says he drank 3 drinks the night before the verdict over the course of an hour, as John Goodman said he did, night of the accident, to see its effects, see how he'd feel. Of course, prosecutors say that is really a life experience, but defense attorneys say not so. That is actual proof of jury misconduct.
Judge Colbath is just in a position now where he has a runaway juror who has pretty much tainted quite a few things and may well cost the state a lot of money.
And so we wait to see what happens, Jay, in just 2 hours' time. If there is a sentencing, just after that, we'll have a bond hearing for John Goodman. He could be released on bond temporarily during the appeals process. This is, as you know, Jay, a very decisive day here at the Palm Beach County Courthouse. Back to you.
And a very emotional one. Alex Sands, thank you very much for that report. You know, we're talking about Dennis DeMartin, this alleged runaway juror here. He really sent the defense into a tailspin with all of the accusations, with his actions, and with what he had to say. I want to welcome in my colleague, Jeff Skrypek. And Jeff spoke exclusively to Dennis DeMartin. And I know some of that testimony was actually brought into evidence by the defense. Jeff, take us back to the point where we got to today.
Well, Jay, Dennis DeMartin first was questioned here at the Palm Beach County Courthouse 11 days ago. It all surrounded the role of John Goodman's wealth in his conviction. Now, Dennis DeMartin finds himself back here in the hot seat, all surrounding what he wrote about in his book. Juror Dennis DeMartin keeps finding himself at the center of attention. First, it was for his experience as a deliberating juror. Now, it's because of his book.
I emphasized that I wanted to do a book and all. I understand that.
John Goodman's defense first questioned DeMartin's intentions and timing in writing Believing in the Truth. But once it was self-published, it was what he wrote that caused uproar.
Judge never told me don't do any experiments or anything. I wasn't drunk the next morning when I made my decision.
The controversy, though, has nothing to do with his toxicity levels. DeMartin wrote about drinking 3 vodka tonics the night before deliberations. But his decision was supposed to rely on information provided in court.
I wanted to test it myself and see how I acted after 3 drinks. I mean, I had to make a decision on this man's life the next day.
A decision is now in the hands of a judge. DeMartin will revisit the courtroom for another round of questioning. His answers could be the break Goodman's attorneys are hoping for. A new trial.
I'm going to be very hurt personally. It's going to hurt me very personal. I didn't do anything to cause anything like that. I just spoke from what I felt in my heart.
His feelings won't matter. It's what he did and how it influenced Goodman's conviction that outweighs everything. Now, DeMartin is set to appear before a judge for questioning shortly before 2 o'clock. The defense has submitted a list of questions, but ultimately it is up to Judge Jeffrey Kalbath to pick which ones are asked.